Well, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here. I would like to welcome all of our virtual students that joined us this fall, who hopefully are going to join us in the spring face-to-face. We cannot wait to have you here on campus. So welcome to your registration webinar. You're going to get to meet a whole lot of people today. We're going to reintroduce you to your program directors. We're going to learn about course modalities. We're going to hear about how to register. So let's get this show on the road and let's introduce your program directors. So let's talk about the spring 2021 course modalities. For all of our virtual students and our continuing students, you've seen this before. There's nothing new about the chart that's on your screen, but we do want to remind you of those options. So there are 5 course modality options for spring 2021, including traditional face-to-face, where you're in the classroom, you're masked, the faculty member is masked. Then we have hybrid, and hybrid is where part of the class is face-to-face and part of the class is online. And then of course you have this crazy one that we call high flex or flexible. And that's where you rotate as groups of students in and out of the class so that everybody has an opportunity to be face-to-face. And then of course remote, which means that you are taking your class at the time that it is scheduled and your faculty member is delivering that class maybe from the classroom, maybe from their home office, maybe from their campus office, but the class is going on at this regularly scheduled time. And then of course, the traditional online class that is fully asynchronous all of the time, it is a course that has a W in the section number. So when you're looking at these 5 modalities, it's important for you to be mindful of those that are considered to be face-to-face options. Those are the first 3 columns on your chart: the traditional, the hybrid, and the high flex or flexible. So if you are a student that needs to take a face-to-face option, you're going to want to be sure that you are in one of those 3. Now, the other factor we just want to remind everybody of is that any of these options are available asynchronously to a student, which means if you are unable to join it streaming or you are unable to join it face-to-face, you can participate asynchronously and let your faculty member know that that is what you are choosing to do. So for all of our FB students who joined us virtually, you know, it really didn't matter which option you joined last fall because you were attending all of those through streaming. But if you're going to be here on campus, you're going to want to consider those face-to-face options. So be mindful of whether or not you're required to have a face-to-face option versus being able to choose from any of those. And if you have questions about any of these course modalities, we're going to entertain all of those questions at the end of this session, and you are welcome to put your questions into the chat. So let's continue on so that you can understand a little bit about the course registration dates, the appointment times, and when you're able to actually register for classes in 2021. So let's move on to the next session.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy that you're able to join us today. I want to take a little bit of time to provide information and reminders about what you need to keep in mind each semester as you prepare for registration. My #1 recommendation for a successful registration is preparation. So we want to make sure that we get started with that today. Now, the first item that we want to cover is the academic calendar. So this is available to you every semester, and it outlines important deadlines that you have to keep in mind, including the window of registration, last day to add coursework, the first and last days of class, as well as detailed payment information on page 2. And on this slide, page 2 is actually on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, it does not display the complete calendar, so make sure that you go on the UTD page and get a copy. Go ahead and print it out. Add these dates to your own personal calendar on your phone, and maybe even set some reminders for yourself ahead of these deadlines so that they don't get past you. Everything kind of about registration revolves around the academic calendar, so it's very important that you have a copy and that you are aware of the deadlines that are coming up. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is your coursework, right? In order to start registering, you have to figure out what courses you're going to add for that semester. You decide how many courses you want to take, then you have to figure out which ones they will be. So for that, you have to be available of your degree requirements. I always like to remind students that the degree requirements come from the graduate catalog, which you can access via the link on this slide. It's a pretty short link. It's catalog.utdallas.edu. Please take some time to look through it if you haven't already. Keep it handy as a resource. You don't have to memorize it, but do get comfortable with the information in it, especially with the information regarding the courses that you need to be able to earn your degree. Now, because we're talking about the catalog, I always want to also mention the required GPA. To be able to continue in the program, you have to keep a minimum GPA in your of 3.0 in your degree program, your core, and your overall. So that you have to be mindful of doing well in your classes and keeping an eye on that GPA, because if it does fall below that 3.0, it may ultimately mean that you're not able to continue in the program and you may not be able to earn your degree. Now, getting back to how you choose your courses, another item that you can find useful in determining what classes you need is a tool that we prepare in our office and that we call the Degree Plan Worksheet. We take the information from the catalog regarding the courses that you need for your degree and we place them in which I think is a very easy to read PDF spreadsheet that then helps you kind of figure out what courses you've already satisfied and what courses you still need to complete, so that also kind of gives you an indication of what courses you need to make sure that you're enrolling in the upcoming semester. The last item I want to mention is that your program director and their team, they also put a lot of information to get together that they either email out to you or that they present at events and webinars. And it includes details on their recommendation on courses. So please take advantage of that type of information. The program director, the faculty that they work with, they're the experts in the field that you're studying in. And so their insight is so useful in helping you make the most of your degree. So be mindful of the information that they provide as well. So now, when it comes to registration, your registration is actually going to happen within the Orion Student Center. So we definitely want to go ahead and take a look at that. As you know, you log into the Orion Student Center via Galaxy using your NetID and password. The main UTD page will contain the link. So utdallas.edu, at the very top of the page, you will see the link to Galaxy, which then gives you Orion Student Center. I did want to remind you that if you ever have any logging issues because of your NetID or password, or just something doesn't work, you can always reach out to the computer help desk, also known as the OIT help desk. They'll be the ones to kind of help you troubleshoot. I put the link on the slide, but you don't necessarily have to remember it. Whenever you go to the page to log in, there will always be right below it, as it shows on the bottom of this slide, is a link where you can click and get access to the help desk. So contact the help desk. It's going to be accessible to you right there. So now, once you go into the Orion Student Center, you will see these tiles, right? There's a lot of information, even beyond what we're going to cover about registration, that you would have accessible within the Orion Student Center. Now, Manage My Classes is the main tile that we use, where you're going to find a lot of the information that you need for registration. But before we jump and look at what's the content of Manage My Classes, I actually want to look at a tile that's labeled Tasks. So to stay connected with you and to keep you informed on required tasks that you have to complete, we utilize to-do lists and holds, which are the items that you can essentially find within this tile. Holds are going to be placed on your account if there are any actions that you have to take before being allowed to move forward in your program. So this is a very important part in preparation for registration. You have to make sure that you take a look at this tasks tile and then take care of any pending items, clear any holds, so that once you start registering, this is not something that holds you back. So take care of it ahead of time so that you're ready to go when the time for registration begins. The next one is, the next thing I want to cover is the Manage My Classes tile. So as you can see, there's a lot of information on this tile that contains to registration, from searching for classes, actually adding a class, dropping a class. The items towards the bottom of the list may not be items specifically related to registering, but they're also informational once you're enrolled, right? What's my exam schedule? Where can I get my books? But for right now, what I wanted to point out is in the middle of those bullet points on the slide, you will see something called enrollment appointment, right? So if you go to this tile, this is where you can also view your enrollment appointment. I want to remind you that even though it's called enrollment appointment, it actually isn't an appointment. This is actually just a date and time when you can actually start registering in your coursework. And sometimes, to help clarify that, we refer to it as an enrollment date. So as soon as that date and day and time hits or starts, you are able to then log into the system and start adding courses to your schedule. Of course, you do not wait until that day and time to start planning for it. So even though your day and time is not until a few weeks from now, you can start today, start planning. Once the schedule goes live, start planning what courses you want to take, put them in your shopping cart, get it ready to go. So then as soon as your enrollment day and time hits, all you have to do is just say, finish enrolling. That's going to make it easier and more likely that you get more of the type of schedule that you want to get, instead of starting to plan right when your enrollment day and time hits. All right, so my final thoughts on registration, specifically, and also this is also something that's going to help you just being a student at UTD, is just to be aware that all of the communication with UTD departments has to be through UTD email. So please make sure that it is up and running, that you can log in and check your email, and then make sure to work with a computer help desk if it's not working, and make sure that you're checking it on a regular basis, because not only is it going to be a tool for you to reach out to us, but it's also an important tool for us to reach out to you. Sometimes we need to give you information, ask a question, be proactive about something and that we're emailing you about. So it's good that you check it on a regular basis, and that you keep a communication going with us through your UTD email. And then I know that as a UTD student, you know that you receive two IDs, right? One's called the UTD ID, which is the one that starts with 20 and just has numbers. And then the other one's called the Net ID, which is essentially your initials followed by some numbers. Now, there's a difference in how you use these. Whenever you communicate with us via email for assistance with registration, for example, don't use the UTD ID. So keep the UTD ID to yourself. Keep it protected. Don't share it. Kind of treat it a little bit like your social security number. It is an identification number that we are aware of, but it's not something that you want to share over email. If we do need to kind of determine who you are to make sure that we're looking at the same file, we could use the Net ID. So if in the email we need to make sure that we're talking or we're working with the correct file, we will ask you for your Net ID, but we will never ask you for your UTD ID. The last thing is that I want to mention is that we do have a page dedicated for registration information. So please take some time to check it out. It's going to have a lot of details on items that I covered today, but a lot more information about, the academic calendar, the full link so that you can see the full page, the catalog, a link to the catalog, how to search for classes. We've added some videos on there that hopefully will help you figure out how you can search for classes. So I hope that you find that page very useful. I hope that you found the information that I've shared with you today very useful. But of course, if there's ever a doubt and you need help, please reach out. Please let us know, and we'll definitely be happy to help. All right. Thank you.
Well, let's see what kind of questions everybody has. I bet all of you have questions. So go ahead and start putting those in the chat box. And Corina and I are available to answer each of those questions. Again, let me reiterate the face-to-face options in terms of our course modalities. Those are courses that are traditional, what we call hybrid, or high flex or flexible. And so you're going to want to know the difference between those that are face-to-face. So Norma, I know that you're with us. What kind of questions do we have in the chat box?
We have some great questions coming in. I also do want to mention that we do have some upcoming program webinars for your program specific questions about, classes having to do with electives or career tracks. So I have those up on the screen. But the first one that we have is, can you please let me know, after I enroll in a class, can I drop it if I want to change the course any number of times before the enrollment registration ends?
Yes, you have the ability to add and drop as you need to, or as you change your mind. There are limitations. And Corina, can you pop on with us and share with us a little bit about what the course enrollment registrations are in terms of total number and when those limitations come off?
Sure thing. Yes. So each semester there is a limitation as far as credit hours are concerned. In general, each course is worth 3 credit hours, and the maximum enrollment allowed within the initial part of registration is going to be a total of 13 credit hours. So that's usually, that's a good number of 4 courses, and the professional development course if it's required for your degree. So that gives you a good number of courses, but if you were to want additional classes, you would have to wait until that limitation is removed, which usually happens close to the beginning of the semester. Although going into the spring semester, we may be able to release it just before we leave for the winter break. But then outside of that, you are able to add and drop classes as you need. You just have to be mindful of the deadlines that are on the academic calendar, because if you get to that deadline when you can no longer add any classes, if you were waiting to drop something to add something, if that deadline has passed, you won't be able to do that. You would be able to drop, but you won't be able to add. So as you're kind of figuring out what combination of coursework you want, make sure that you set yourself a date of when you know past this date, I'm not going to be able to add. So I need to make sure that I have decided on what classes I need for that semester.
Thank you, Corina. You know, I think you've mentioned before in previous webinars the importance of knowing the academic calendar. And you can get on the UT Dallas website and just search for academic calendar and look at the spring 2021 calendar. You always want to be mindful of the tuition refund schedule and the timing of when things have to be done. Every student is responsible for knowing the academic calendar. So that's something that you'll want to bookmark and have handy. And especially given that the amount of courses you take is tied directly to the amount of tuition you pay. You're just going to want to know when those deadlines are. So keep that in mind. I do want to reiterate what Norma said regarding the schedule that you see up on your screen. Many students are doing exactly what we tell them to, which is to begin with the end in mind and think about the career that you want or the position that you want when you complete the program. That requires you to do a little bit of career management planning up front and really understand the courses, the particular courses that go with various tracks or concentrations. And these webinars that will happen this next week or in the next 10 days that are being offered by your programs are of critical importance. You really want to go and you really want to understand the core classes for your degree. You want to understand the electives that are being offered in a variety of tracks. The programs are the place that you want to direct all of those types of questions. And we have made sure that the programs are available to you so that you have that opportunity. So please take advantage of what you see on the screen and jot those times down and make sure you join those webinars. Norma, can you tell them how they join one of these webinars?
Sure. So the programs themselves have them listed either on the Comet calendar, which the website is listed there, but they've also sent invites via email to you to invite you to these webinars, and they'll provide you with links to join. If you don't see it on the Comet calendar, if you haven't received an email, I've listed the program email address there, so you can certainly reach out to your program directly if you haven't received an email to join.
Thank you, Norm. I appreciate that. So what's the next question?
Are we required, this is an international student, are we required to have a face-to-face class to be in the country?
Yes, you are required a face-to-face class, and that's a 3-credit-hour class. So that's going to be in one of those first 3 modalities, traditional, hybrid, or high-flex flexible. So look for those on the schedule. If for some reason you have a challenge in finding one, you can always email JSOM GR Advising, and we're going to make sure that every incoming international student has a face-to-face class.
Can you please give a breakdown of what percentage of classes would have the face-to-face component?
You know, to be honest, I don't have that information right at my fingertips. But what I can tell you is that the entry-level courses that you would need to take, there would be at least one of those that you'll be able to take in a face-to-face capacity. Again, I don't have that data right handy, but there are a number of big degree programs that have required core classes, and we've tried to make sure that at least one of those is available for a student to take in a face-to-face modality.
I am a virtual START student and recently got my F1 visa for spring 2021. However, I still have a hold of a TB test. Will it be removed so that I can register?
Yes, in fact, all of those TB holds should be removed. Corina, let's make a note to reach out to the health center to make sure that all of those are off. Those holds will be taken off. I assume that they're off of most students already. It is my understanding you will need to get that TB test taken by January the 11th before classes start on the 19th. And you will, if you don't do that, then you will have a hold going forward relative to registering for a future semester. So you will want to get that done, but we'll make sure to reach out to the health center again to make sure that all of those TB test holds are removed. If by some chance yours does not get removed, please email Jindal at utdallas.edu and we'll make sure, I'll personally send an email to the health center to make sure that they take that off.
I'm a virtual START student and have gotten an F1 visa. I wanted to book my flight tickets. Can you please let me know if there are any quarantine rules that I will have to adhere to for the spring semester?
Oh, what a great question. So first, let me comment, congratulations to those students who've already gotten their visas. I know that's quite an arduous task given the circumstances of the world. So congratulations on that. And I hope that the rest of you have visa appointments set and are looking forward to securing your visa to come to the U.S. So I can tell you we don't have a specific quarantine rule that is being put on students, but I can tell you what Monica as a mother would tell you. You want to get here in advance long enough to have at least a 14-day quarantine. So you should come early enough to be able to quarantine yourself, take care of the things that you need so that you can be absolutely certain that there haven't been any circumstances in transit from your country to the US. So I would plan for a 14-day quarantine. However, that is not mandated for you. So you're allowed to come into the country 30 days from the start date of class, and classes start on the 19th of January.
One quick correction to the screen that you see on. For the business analytics cohort, there's a little bit of a typo. The two options you have are October 23rd, 2020, and then November 6th. There's a hanging one on the first line that should be on the second. So I apologize for that error, but I also put it in the chat so that way you could see the correction.
Yeah, not the 6th of January, but the 6th of November.
Yes.
No worries.
Sorry about that. Can you please elaborate a bit more on the flexible model and how it is different from the hybrid and how the hybrid is different from the traditional? So it looks like they want a difference in the different face-to-face options that we have.
Oh, great question. And I'm glad to answer that. So traditional is, as you have always seen class to be. It is a face-to-face class where every class is taking place in the classroom with you, socially distanced from your classmates and your faculty. Everybody is masked, and that's traditional. You're in the room with the faculty member every time the class meets. Hybrid is a variation of traditional. It means that if you have a class that's Monday night at 7 o'clock, you might be in the class the first Monday night with everybody, socially distanced, all masked, all face-to-face. But the next Monday night, you may be all virtual. So it's kind of a, half in the class, half out of the class kind of situation. The third one, which is the one that's most confusing for students, is what you'll hear us refer to as high flex or flexible. And what that means is the class is broken into groups or sets of students, and the students will be rotating in and out of the class. So that means that if you have a class that meets on Monday at 2 p.m. and you have 40 students in the class, the first Monday, you might have 20 people in the class. The next Monday, you're in the class. Then you're out of the class the next Monday, then in the class. So you're rotating in and out of class based on class dates, and it's broken down into groups. So I hope that answers that question.
Perfect. How can one identify the course modality while registering? Is there any different code for traditional format and remote/virtual format?
That's a great question. Corina, can you tell them where they will see that on their screen and in which box it is? It's in a particular box.
Yes, when you start looking at the schedule, which should be published, if not today, within the next few days, you will be able to see a class note, a special section, a tag, I guess I can call it, for each of the classes that's going to tell you what type of course mode it is. So as you pull it up either in the Orion Student Center or within the course book, which is where you can search for classes, you will be able to see that tag, and it'll tell you that it's traditional or blended hybrid, whichever one of them that it is. You will be able to see it. When you look at the course description, it should be right below that.
Perfect. Thank you, Corina.
So this person asks, when will the professor disclose the modality that they are going to choose for spring 2021 semester?
You'll see it when you look at the course itself. You'll see it. All of the modalities are already marked in course book, so you'll see them when you go into the registration system.
Perfect. How many in-person courses do I need to take in person, as I've started as FV but will be on F1 for spring?
You need to be in one 3-credit-hour face-to-face class. So if you're taking 4, then one of those 4 needs to be in a face-to-face modality. And the first 3 modalities are considered face-to-face here at UT Dallas. That's traditional, hybrid, and high flex. So if you're taking 4 classes, one of those 4 needs to be either traditional, hybrid, or high flex.
Perfect. This person is currently an FV student. Will they be allowed to keep this status for spring?
No, you will convert your status to F1. Now, if you decide to stay in your home country and take classes virtually, then you'll be able to retain that FV status. But if you come to the United States, you'll need F1 status to be eligible for immigration purposes.
So this person asked, what if we are unable to take face-to-face classes? Or unable to register for face-to-face classes?
So if you are unable to register for one, then you need to contact us so that we can make that possible for you. So you will send an email to Jindal at utdallas.edu, and we will work with you to find a face-to-face class that will meet your degree program needs.
This person is a fall 2020 virtual student. Is it a good idea to take a gap semester if we can't get a visa appointment before January?
Wow, so that's a great question, and I appreciate that question. So yes, you can step out of your program and join us either in the summer or in the fall. There are limitations for how long you can step out without having to reapply. And I'm going to defer to Corina about the length of time that you can be out before you have to reapply. But yes, if you are unable to get a visa for the spring semester, you can step out and join us in summer or in fall. Corina, do you want to answer how long you can step out?
Sure thing. So technically, the policy is that you can be out for what we call 2 long semesters. A long semester is a spring semester and a fall semester. Summer does not count as a long semester. So if you are a new student in fall 2020 and you decide to not attend in spring 2021, you can be out that semester, and then summer won't count. You could technically, if needed, you could technically be out in fall 2021 as well. You would have to return by spring 2022 to be able to make sure to continue. If you do not return by spring 2022, then you would have to reapply for admission.
All right, this next question has several parts. This person is a full-time student at UTD on an FV visa, and they're not able to join. They were wondering if they can continue as an FV student, or they're not able to join the US or come to the US for spring. Can they continue as an FV student the next semester, which I think you answered earlier?
They absolutely can continue as an FV student. I suspect we'll have a few students who will opt to do that. So yes, you could just choose all. And in fact, all 5 of our course modalities are available if you continue as an FV student. So you'll be able to do face-to-face and be able to attend asynchronously. So you'll still have a lot of choice.
The next part of the question is, if they are continuing as an FV student, can they do it on a part-time basis as well, say 1 or 2 courses?
Yes, you can. You aren't required to be a full-time FV student. You can be a part-time FV student.
The next part of their question, do they need to update their visa status again if they are doing another virtual semester?
You know, that is a great question. And my inclination is that you do not, because you are not seeking to come into the US. I think you can stay as an FV. Just to check that to be sure, I would send an email to issperspective@utdallas.edu, and we'll try to get the answer to that question too if you want to email Jindal@utdallas.edu. But yeah, you could continue as an FV. I don't think you have to change your visa status.
And then the last part of their question, if they are continuing as an FV student, then they would not need to get the TB test done until they actually enter the US. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Okay. This person asked, will next semester also be mostly online?
So that's kind of a hard question to answer. We'll have a number of sections that are in a face-to-face modality. I think, you know, the campus is open. The university is not closed because of COVID-19. We are open. In fact, I'm in my office right now, and Norma is as well. We see students that are walking around the campus. Of course, they're masked. We don't have a huge population of students that are on campus. I think a lot of students are opting to attend in a streaming capacity or asynchronously, but we do have quite a number of on-campus classes that are happening. So it's hard to say the percentage that is virtual. Is the campus robust with activity right now? I don't want to mislead anybody. It is, and I suspect the campus will be similar in the spring. But I will tell you that despite that, our students are blowing and going with regard to their student engagement. So they sure haven't let the circumstances diminish their engagement in student organizations. I mean, we had a Dean's Council meeting last weekend that was robust and active, and I've been in 4 different student org meetings in the last 10 days that had over 70 students in each of them. So we are being successful despite the challenges that are at hand.
As an international student, what are the minimum number of credits we can take in the summer semester, and does an internship count towards our credits?
So you don't have to, as an international student on an F1 visa, you are not required to take any classes in the summer. You are not required to take any. So, so you don't have to worry about meeting a course requirement in the summer. You are not required to be enrolled. So I think that answers that question. If you choose to take an internship in the summer, you certainly can. If you choose to take classes, you certainly can. But you are not required as an F1 student to take classes in the summer.
And will their internship count towards their credits if they take the class in the summer or any semester?
So that's a tougher question. If you are in one of the degree programs where the internship is required and you are able to take a 0 credit internship, then 0 credit doesn't count toward your degree. You're not paying tuition for it, but you are enrolled in it because you are required to be enrolled in a 0 credit CPT. You can only do that with your first internship in those designated degree programs. Not all degree programs require an internship, so that 0 credit is not available to all students.
So we talked earlier about how many credits or courses they have to take on campus or face-to-face classes, the 3 credit hours. But this person is asking more specifically, how many credits and courses do I have to complete face-to-face to be eligible for OPT and STEM extension?
So to be an F1 student, you must be enrolled in a minimum of 9 credit hours. You cannot be enrolled in fewer credit hours than 9 as an F1 student. So in order to be eligible for CPT, it depends upon the program that you are enrolled in. You know, for a number of our programs, business analytics, supply chain, management science, marketing, and business analytics, at the completion of 18 credit hours, you're required to do an internship. So in those programs, it's 18 hours. In some programs, it would be 2 long semesters that you would need to be enrolled. And so as an F1 student, 2 long semesters, you would again be back at 18 credit hours. And completion of the degree is what is required for OPT. So all of our Masters of Science programs are 36 credit hours. Most of our students graduate, all of our MS students graduate with 37, but the degree program is 36. One is a program prerequisite, which is professional development.
Could you please confirm, if we register for a course that is in a face-to-face modality now, is there any possibility that the class will become virtual before class starts?
I guess that's possible, but we're going to protect all of our international students. I do not see that happening. That would be only if there were some emergency. But let's just take the worst case scenario, and let's say that you're in a face-to-face, and I'm going to knock on wood, the professor's in an accident and can't teach the class. We are going to make sure that every one of our international students are protected and in a face-to-face class. So if that worst case thing happened, we would make sure to get you in a face-to-face class or find a professor who can teach that face-to-face class. We do not want to in any way jeopardize a single international student with regard to their status. That is our number one priority. If your status requires that you be in one face-to-face class, we're going to make sure you are in one face-to-face class.
Can we take a face-to-face class asynchronously on an F1 visa? This person is wondering if they can be in a different city in the US and still be enrolled in a face-to-face class maintaining F1 status.
Wow, our students get really clever, Norma. I guess technically you could do that. I would not do that. I think that Homeland Security expects our students to be here in Dallas, enrolled in a face-to-face class and attending that face-to-face class. When students get to the end of their journey and hopefully land an OPT, hopefully get an H-1B visa, and they at some point get the benefit of going to green card, you're going to go through a lot of validation processes that are going to wonder or ask the question if you were engaged in class and participating, and you want to be able to have that validated at some point. So I would not do that as an F1 student. Can you? That's a individual choice you make, but it is not a choice that I would recommend to any F1 student.
Are we eligible for on-campus jobs immediately after we arrive, or do we have any restrictions on that?
No, you're eligible as an F1 student for on-campus jobs upon arrival.
So you talked earlier about internships and who can apply for them after a certain amount of hours. So this person has a question about internships. Can we apply for internships in summer if we did our fall semester online?
So if you are in one of those 5 degree programs, business analytics, marketing, supply chain, management science, and information technology management. If you're in one of those 5, the internship is required upon the completion of 18 credit hours. So if you took 9 of those credit hours in your home country and you're going to come here to the US, you probably took 10 credit hours in your home country because you probably took professional development. And then you come here in the spring and you take 9 credit hours, then yes, you are eligible to do an internship in summer of 2021.
This person is an MS Management Science student who started virtually. They took 9 credits right now during fall. To be eligible for CPT, should the next 9 credits all be face-to-face, or would a minimum of 3 credits of face-to-face suffice?
A minimum of 3 credits face-to-face would suffice, but I wouldn't think that you took 9 in the fall. You probably took 10 because you took professional development in there as well. And if you did not take professional development, then you're going to need to take professional development in the second semester, but that is required in the first 12 hours of the program.
This person is a fall 2020 FV student, and they took 10 credit hours for the fall, but they kind of struggled a little bit with the virtual courses, and they aren't quite happy with their grades, how do they assess their GPA, and how do they use that to decide their classes for fall 2021? Their visa is approved and they'll be coming spring 2021 to the US.
So I think I would recommend a few things for this student. And Corina, I'd love for you to jump into this conversation as well. The first thing I would do is I would schedule an appointment with your program director or a program support person and talk about your academic performance and look at and seek advice on how you can improve your outcomes by the end of this semester. That would include my recommendation, which would be reaching out to each of your faculty that you're taking this fall and visiting them during office hours and looking at and understanding why you're not performing academically the way that you should be performing. Number two, I think I would look very carefully at the courses that you were enrolled in this fall and what is a prerequisite going into classes that you might take in the spring. So again, I would really recommend that you go to the program director webinar that you see on the screen and be in a position to talk very carefully with your program director about your performance so that you can do what you need to do to improve your performance. You really don't want to be coming in to your second semester here with an overall GPA below a 3.0. So Corina, do you want to chime in also?
Sure thing. Yes, I agree with you, Dr. Powell. I think that the number one thing whenever there is a concern about the coursework in a current semester and the grades expected is to do everything that is possible to make sure to contact the faculty and make sure to do well in the class. There may still be an opportunity. We still have about half of a semester left. So there may be some assignments and things that are coming for you to be able to do well in the class. If ultimately you determine that you do have to retake that class, then that's definitely something that you want to consider for the spring semester. Exactly what the plan is for your registration is a little bit challenging to answer because every situation will be unique, but I would venture to say that you should plan for going to the next set of classes for your spring semester while you work on doing well in your coursework. If worst case scenario, it does not pan out, you are able to still make changes to your spring coursework closer to the beginning of the spring semester if needed. Hopefully not. Hopefully you do well and everything's good.
Yeah, and if for some reason you do poorly in a single class that is a required class, you need to retake that class the very next semester. You don't want to put that off and think that you can compensate it with something else. It's better to retake it and do better while you still have some of that content fresh in your mind. So that's just my personal recommendation.
So this person is wondering if it is possible to obtain an F1 visa for summer 2021 with a 0 credit internship.
Oh, that is, I don't think I can answer that question. Corina, can you answer it? I think that's going to have to be an ISSO question. But a student who is coming in the summer from a Homeland Security perspective is expecting that student to be enrolled. And I don't think a 0 credit class is going to be sufficient enrollment to justify immigration. But that is a really great question. I don't think in the 14 years I've been here, I've ever been asked that question. But if you want to send an email to ISSO Perspective, and if you want to send an email to Jindal at utdallas.edu, we will get you the answer to that question. I suspect that you cannot do that if you're coming in summer. I don't think they will let an international student come in the summer without some expectation of course enrollment. Corina, do you have an answer to that question?
I do not, but I believe I'm with you, Dr. Powell. I believe that you would be required to enroll in 6 credit hours, I believe, for the summer semester.
Exactly, a 6 credit minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But if you'll email us at jindal@utdallas.edu, we'll get you the answer. I'm pretty sure that 6 credit hour is going to be a requirement. But I'm not an authority on immigration issues, so don't hold me specifically. We'll get you the right answer.
So this person is asking if they can do a 3 credit internship from July to August, 240 hours.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I don't know why you would want to use up all of your internship credit in one semester. Students typically do not do that. Students typically want to stretch out their internships so that they can either continue a really terrific internship they have, or they can have a variety of internships. I would say that the great majority of our students do 1 credit hour internships. And if you're in some of those programs where we have 0 credit as an option, we have students who've actually done 4 semesters worth of internship credit. That gives you a chance to do multiple internships at multiple organizations and really leverage your networking and your relationships to identify the opportunity that might be a good fit for you for OPT.
As a current student on FV status, are they still eligible for spring 2021 scholarships?
So unfortunately, if you started as a virtual student for fall, you cannot apply for an incoming new student scholarships, and we only award continuing student scholarships in the fall. So no, you cannot apply for a spring 2021 scholarship.
So for fall continuing scholarships, how many credit hours are required cumulatively to be considered?
12. A minimum of 12 credit hours to apply for any fall continuing student scholarships. And you would want to apply by the scholarship deadline, which is usually in or around May the 20th. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to apply after the date.
This person says they have taken 7 credits for face-to-face in the fall semester and 1 course of 3 credits asynchronously. So a total of 10 credits. How many credits do they need to take in the spring face-to-face to be eligible for internship and CPT?
So if you arrive, and I'm assuming that they are arriving as an F1 student. If you are arriving as an F1 student in spring of 2021, you're going to have to be enrolled in 9 credit hours. And you would, if you are in a degree program where it's one of those 5, it's business analytics, it's supply chain management science, marketing, and information technology management. In those 5 programs only, if you've completed 18 credit hours, whether those 18 were in Bangalore or in the US in the fall and here in the spring, you are eligible for an internship in the summer. If you're not in one of those 5 degree programs, then you are required to be in on-campus 2 long semesters to be eligible for an internship.
Perfect. Well, those were all questions.
Wow, they were very expedient and efficient, Norma.
Yes. So I don't know if you have any closing remarks before we finish out the webinar.
Well, I want to thank Corina. She and her team are always so incredibly generous with their time in helping our students and explaining what are tremendously complicated things. And for our virtual students, you've had to learn and be engaged with us from a distance. And I hope that you're feeling that we're responsive and that if you have a question, we're going to help you. We are seriously devoted to each one of you in making sure that we're keeping you in status and keeping you safe and giving you the good advice that you need. So we hope that your fall semester has gone really well. We appreciate your support from wherever you might be in the world. We hope that you're being safe and you're being well and that your families are doing well. And as we said at the very beginning with the video, we really cannot wait to have our students here in Dallas and be able to see our students face to face. So Corina, thank you for you and your team joining us. Norma, thank you for making everything happen in webinar land. And FV students, if you have any questions, any concerns, please do not be shy. Send an email to jindal@utdallas.edu if it's a general question. If it's a question about course registration that you have that you're interested in getting an answer to, you can either send it to the Jindal box or to jsomgradvising@utdallas.edu. And we cannot wait to see you and be in touch if we can help in any way. Thank you, Norma. You guys take care.